Hey everybody, it's been a good Sunday. Had a good Sunday school lesson. Had a good church service. I got invited to a church meeting tomorrow night, a church picnic next Saturday, and a men's retreat for probably sometime in November. So I'm getting very active in activities and what people have going on, and it's great. Um, you know, I'm finally expanding, the social circle. The time and patience is paid off. And I, instead of getting desperate and looking for people that took me back to my old ways of living, now I'm starting to get more interaction with people that really want better for me and expect better from me. People that are going to hold me accountable and have me maintain, the work that I've done. And that's what I want. I wasn't getting that before. You know, people wanted to point fingers and blame and stuff, but nobody wanted to, share thoughts, ideas. When you're sitting there drowning, who's sending the fucking life ring? Nobody. Nobody was doing it. So I figured it out on my own. And that's how I'm going to continue to do it. Well, when I find the right one, I'll let them in, but I'm good flying solo. I enjoy my own company. I prefer my own company. You know, too many shallow people in this world that I don't even want to associate with, let alone be attached to. Um, it's just too much. But anyway, today's topic of discussion, now that we went off on that little tangent, I want to talk about principles because I am a man of principles. And this is the thing I don't think a lot of people understand about me is I will cut you off over the principle of something over what that something was. No matter what you did terrible, I believe in grace. Um, but if there's, no accountability to make it better, if you don't stand on any principles, if you can't understand to make changes to better yourself, then yeah, you're not included in my group, vicinity, circle, whatever you want to call it. That's my only requirement. You ain't got to be perfect. You just got to strive for it. You just got to want it. You want to be willing to do the work to get there. Even though we all know, but that's not the point. The point isn't to become perfect. And it's ironic we say, perfect because biblically perfect, all that means is complete. So there's something to consider too. God's still working on me. God's still building me. I will never be perfect because, or at least not in this form. Maybe in the next form, maybe that's when he does the finishing touches. I don't know. I'll find out when I get there though. But you gotta have principles. You gotta have core beliefs that you stand by, lines that will not. I don't care what they're offering, lines that cannot be crossed. You won't abide by it. You won't stand to witness it. You won't take part in it. A lot of people are lacking that in this day and age, and it's frightening to see. If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, and that is absolutely true. You got to get some gumption. You got to, again, a couple videos ago we were talking about conviction. That's part of your principles. A conviction is to maintain, to uphold those principles. You ain't got to force them on everybody else, but you got to have some for yourself that you something somewhere. There's lines that cannot be crossed. Not to be a healthy, productive member of society. But again, people, it's that binary black and white thinking. That's what's really destroying you guys. That's what's really making it hard. You know, for everybody out there is you got to get away from that. You have to use your discernment. You have to use, you know, everything isn't one way or the other. That's not how life works. There's an infinite amount of reasons why someone does one thing and somebody else does another, or why they both do the same. One could have benevolent intentions and one could have malevolent intentions. And it's that malevolence that's dangerous. That's when you let hate in your heart. That's when you start judging people differently based on, whatever thing. We're all human. We're all on this earth. We're all alive. We all have the same needs. Why are we so at odds with each other? Because you're stupid. That's why. Because you let them win. You let them tear all of us apart. That's why. That's why we can't get along and make it better, because it's working perfectly as it's designed to. We are at a point where we police ourselves to keep ourselves separated. Yeah. All they had to do was set it up. And then we took over. We do all the work for them. We are the wardens of our own prison. And I guess ain't nobody offering, no pardons. But if we could come together, if people could, and again, I'm not saying it's going to be all, rainbows and unicorns and kumbaya and all that. That's a fantasy. That is pure fantasy. But we can absolutely have a better existence. Just by saying enough is enough to some of the shenanigans that have been going on. I hear the voices out there saying, hey, this is ridiculous. Why are we putting up with this? Or why is this happening? Or because we're allowing it. Because we're not changing it. We all say we want it to be different, but nobody's willing to take the risk to make it different. Nobody wants to reflect. Nobody wants to be accountable. You can't change something until you understand the nature of it. That's why you have to be accountable. Because you cannot change until you understand the absolute root, the core of the problem. Once you get there, you can do miracles in your life. You turn that over to God. Once you figure that out, and you turn that over to God, that's when you become a new creature. I lived it. I can absolutely testify to that one. And you got to learn to love yourself. I've been saying it the last few videos. Nobody's going to do it for you. Not in this world. You got to maintain self-love and self-respect. And remember, that is the only thing that nobody can take from you. The only way to lose it is to give it away freely. And even once you do that, you can call it right back. It's never a full loss. No matter how bad it is, when you draw a breath, each day you open your eyes, you're promised two things, a chance and a choice. What you do with them is up to you. Life has shown me, no good deed goes unpunished. And that's really, the truth that I've learned from life. And does it stop me from wanting to do good deeds? Not at all. I'm getting tired of the end results. But I'll be insane. I'll keep doing the same thing over and over again. Eventually, people will catch on. People will understand and appreciate kindness, compassion, empathy, humanity. You know. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather be the fool that's putting love out into the world than the idiot who's putting more hate. There's enough of that. We don't need more. We need to correct that. And that's why more people need to, take these steps, put in the effort, do the work, examine yourself, fix what needs to be fixed. Nobody can do it for you. You have to want to do it for yourself. That is the only way change happens. You have to understand it. You can't just ignore it because it takes you back to a painful time in your life. Guess what? If it makes you afraid, that's all the more reason to face it. You're not supposed to be afraid of yourself. I learned that the hard way. I spent most of my life being afraid of myself. Until I finally learned to love myself. That was a game changer. But you have to take the time, If you're one of those people that can't stand to be alone, you got to have people around you all the time. You got to fix that. That's a problem. I'm not saying, there's something wrong with you. I'm saying that it's impacting your life in negative ways that you probably don't even realize. A constant need for validation or having your happiness depend on others. Like, no, that's all internal. That's got to come from here. Validate yourself. It's me and God. I don't need nobody else. Would I like some other company? Yes, but I don't need it. And that makes you a powerful person when you realize that. When you realize you can walk away from anybody, I have that ability. I've had to sharpen it over the years, but that's what makes certain people nervous about me. Because I will stand on principle. If I tell you enough is enough, and it keeps going, you'll see just how much I hang around for it. You will find out quickly. And some people would say don't be proud of this, but there's absolutely been times I've cut off my nose to spite my face. And you know what? I still stand by that because it was still to uphold the principle. That and the fact that you have to live with integrity. If you say you're going to do something, and if you say it out of anger, in the heat of it, guess what? That even more you have to stick to it. Because then you'll really get the lesson. And it makes you be mindful of what you say, in times of anger. And I've gotten really good at that. I don't threaten, I warn people. I say, hey, you keep hurting me, you're going to lose access to me. And people chose to ignore that warning, and guess what? They found out. Enough is enough. Got to have principles. You got to surround yourself with people that have principles. They don't have to be the same principles, but they have to align with each other. They have to be compatible. Otherwise it's chaos. But I mean, let's face it, the majority of people just want to be good people. Like, they don't want to bother anyone. They just want to live life and be comfortable. That's what most people, rational people want. They want to find some people that they're happy with. Just a minute. And live life. That's all any of us want. But anyway, we're getting close to time, and I got some company now. So, keep taking care of yourself. Help take care of each other. Catch you in the next one.